22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. You duped me, O Lord, and I let myself be duped. You were too strong for me, and you triumphed. All the day I am an object of laughter. Everyone mocks me. Whenever I speak, I must cry out. Violence and outrage is my message. The word of the Lord has brought me derision and reproach all the day. I say to myself, I will not mention him. I will speak in his name no more. But then it becomes like fire, burning in my heart, imprisoned in my bones. I grow weary holding it in. I cannot endure it. The word of the Lord.
My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God. My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God. O God, you are my God whom I seek. For you my flesh pines and my soul thirsts. Like the earth parched, lifeless and without water. My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God. Thus have I gazed toward you in the sanctuary, to see your power and your glory. For your kindness is a greater good than life. My lips shall glorify you. My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God. Thus will I bless you while I live. Lifting up my hands, I will call upon your name. As with the riches of a banquet shall my soul be satisfied, and with exultant lips my mouth shall praise you. My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God. You are my help, and in the shadow of your wings I shout for joy. My soul clings fast to you. Your right hand upholds me. My soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God.
A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, your spiritual worship. Do not conform yourselves to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and pleasing and perfect. The word of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer greatly from the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. Then Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. God forbid, Lord, no such thing shall ever happen to you. He turned and said to Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are an obstacle to me. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. Then Jesus said to his disciples, Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. What profit would there be for one to gain the whole world and forfeit his life? Or what can one give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man will come with his angels in his Father's glory, and then he will repay all according to his conduct. The Gospel of the Lord.
The 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Jeremiah 20:7-9. This is one of the passages in the prophet Jeremiah that are called the Confessions of Jeremiah. They're not confessions in the sense of him confessing his sins, but rather challenges against God, because he feels that although he has done everything that God asked him to do, he's not been treated fairly. He's been rejected by his own people, and the irony is he was only proclaiming his message in order to bring them back from the brink. He realized that if they continued in their sinful ways, they would end up in destruction. Nevertheless, they blamed him for all the difficulties they suffered, instead of looking at themselves and realizing that what they were receiving was just punishment for what they had done. Jeremiah denounces God. He says, "You duped me, and I let myself be duped." Now, the word in Hebrew, duped, actually has sexual connotations, almost like seduced. And "you were too strong for me" in Hebrew could also be translated almost as "you raped me." That you violated me into my very inmost being, and yet I tried to proclaim your message. Whenever I proclaimed it, the reaction was terrible. And I tried not to proclaim it, but it burned like fire within my bones. Jeremiah feels used and abused. He feels as if he's done everything God wanted. God has not responded by rewarding him as he expected to be rewarded. The second reading is from Romans 12:1-2. In this passage, Paul exhorts the community to use their bodies as a way of worshiping God. Their bodies shouldn't be used to abuse other people. They shouldn't be used in order to degrade themselves, but rather they should build up other people. Now, obviously, he's referring to sexuality. A lot of the people in Rome who are Christians now were converted pagans, and they really didn't follow a sexual morality in their faith as we are called to do. But also we could apply this in modern times to the idea of using our body, treating it well, dieting, making sure we take care of our health, etc. That even the way we treat our body will be a sign that we realize that this is a gift from God, and gifts should be used with respect. The Gospel is from Matthew 16:21-27. Jesus, after predicting his passion, is confronted by Peter, who says, "God forbid, no such thing shall ever happen to you." What does Jesus respond to Peter? "Get behind me, Satan." Satan in the Old Testament was the tempter, the one who tried to entice us to do the wrong things. In the first reading, we heard about God enticing Jeremiah to do the right things. Here it's the opposite. Peter thinks of Jesus being Messiah as an honor, as a sign of authority and power, and he wants to be in on that. When he hears about the suffering of Jesus, he can't stand to think about it. But Jesus then goes on to say that everyone who wants to follow me has to take up his cross and follow me. Now, Jesus hasn't yet been crucified. Why would he use a statement like, "take up your cross"? And it might be simply a saying that was used in the time of Jesus, or it might be that idea that if you're going to stand up for the faith, you are going to be punished, and the one who would most likely punish you are the Romans, and they will crucify you. We have to die to ourselves in order to live for Christ. That if we really want to live our life to the fullest, then we have to be ready to surrender, to give up entirely of ourselves, not afraid of the consequences, but rather embracing that call to give even more, much as Jeremiah eventually had to do. Remember Jeremiah in that first reading, complaining that it cost him so much, but yet he gave everything. And may God bless us.